Reading comprehension, theory and goals for instruction. So the most important thing about reading comprehension instruction is that our ultimate goal for all reading is for students to become independent strategic readers. Any instruction we do with them should be transferable to independent use. We want them to be able to take what we've taught them and apply it to their independent reading. What do strategic readers do? First, they begin with a purpose. They recognize that different goals require different types of reading. They realize that the strategies they use depend in part on the purpose that was set. They personalize and transform the text to become part of their semantic memory. More on that later. They're constantly coordinating strategies. They modify, adjust, and check until meaning is created. They persevere, they have reading stamina, and they don't give up when reading gets hard. They utilize their reading skills and strategies to be able to read any text they desire to read. However, this does not come naturally. Teachers need to teach students how to do this. Remember, prior knowledge and vocabulary are the two most important components to reading comprehension. So first you teach the vocab, and then that will support their ability to create prior knowledge and then use both those to comprehend what they are reading. Explicit strategy instruction is the core of good comprehension instruction. So before reading, we need our students to activate their prior knowledge and set a purpose for reading. While they're reading a text, students need to make connections, monitor their understanding, generate questions, and stay focused. And last, after reading, we need our students to summarize, to question, to reflect, to discuss, evaluate what they read, and respond to the text in some format, either written or orally. Some question prompts that can be used for this are divided up into before, during, and after. This might be a resource you will find useful. Comprehension instruction, teachers need to support their students in understanding why a strategy is useful, how it is used, and when it is appropriate. This needs to be taught to students explicitly. Teachers need to demonstrate and model. These are crucial factors for success, and the students discussing what they've read and discussing their strategy use after is also very helpful. There are basically two theories on reading comprehension that I'm going to briefly summarize. There are several out there, but there seem to be two that are mentioned the most in research. This is the simple theory. Hoover and Go, 1990. Reading comprehension is based upon the relationship between linguistic comprehension, which is basically understanding the language, and word reading skills, the ability to read. So linguistic comprehension is sometimes an interchangeable term with language comprehension. So the theory that we are looking at here is this one. Reading comprehension equals word decoding times linguistic comprehension. Both need to be present for comprehension to occur. If you needed to visualize, or if you wanted to visualize this simple theory, this is basically what it looks like. To be able to understand or comprehend what you're reading, listening comprehension and decoding need to be there. A type of continuum to visualize would be using 4 quadrants, and it is this quadrant down here, the poor word recognition, poor language comprehension. It is these students that will need the most support from you, their content area teacher, as they are reading content area material. The second theory is the schema theory. This is Anderson and Pearson, and basically they believe, and this is a widely accepted theory, that reading comprehension emerges from the reader's successful use of prior knowledge. And they use that prior knowledge or their schema to construct a coherent and useful meaning for a text. Good comprehension would be the ability to merge the new information with their existing information. This theory explains why prior knowledge is so important for reading comprehension. What a schema looks like in somebody's brain. This would be an example of one someone might have for a dog. You can see connections that they've made with dogs that they've had and dogs that they've known or that they've read about, with information that they've learned in various ways from books and videos. Schema like that, and let's say a kid saw this four-legged animal for the first time. He's got an existing schema that his four-legged pet is a dog. So he assimilates that information into his dog schema. Okay? Now, there's another thing called accommodation. We've got assimilation and accommodation. Accommodation goes something like this. So a kid has an existing schema about his dog. His four-legged pet is a dog. But then someone points out that this is a cat, though it has four legs. So the child says, I can't assimilate that information into my dog schema because it doesn't look like a dog. It is something completely different. So it realizes that all four-legged animals are not dogs, and then that child begins to say, okay, there must be another type of animal. This animal has four legs, it's called a cat, and so it begins to build a new schema around cats. So another way to look at the schema theory would be in this flow chart. And so let's say a reader sits down to read a book about bears and is successful in comprehending what they read. So as the reader is reading and after the reader reads, they compare the information they gleaned from the book to their prior knowledge about bears. So they're comparing their schema about bears to what they just read. So then with the third step, the reader is either accommodating or assimilating. The reader assimilates the information when they integrate what they read into their bear schema. So what they read fit with what they already knew about bears. Maybe they could assimilate some new information into that schema. Good to go. Accommodation occurs when, let's say the reader read this book about bears but found out in that book that the red panda is a family member to the giant panda, but a red panda isn't really a bear. It's also associated with a fox, or I'm sorry, with a raccoon, and kind of has its own classification group on its own. So it had to accommodate that information and start a new schema about red pandas. Okay, that is my short overview of comprehension, instruction, and goals and our purpose. So I would now like you to take a quiz on what you learned, and you can click this guy right there and it will take you to a Google form, and when everybody's done, we'll come back together, whole group.